In this episode of Art with Michel-Paul, Michel-Paul is going to give us a lesson on oil painting.
I'm trying to keep it simple. I'm going back to the day that I took my quick lesson with an artist friend of mine about 13 years ago now. And, the list is small. You want to make sure that you have your paintbrushes. You don't need to have an easel, but I love working on a tabletop easel. So an easel, obviously, whatever you're painting on. It can be, if you look here, I have a canvas today that I'm using. Mine's large, it's 16 by 20. Or people can use these hard canvas panels that you can find. And this I found is my actual first painting that I
Oh,
did when I was learning 14 years ago. This is the one that I
nice.
did in the class. And we wanted something simple that was just the sky, the horizon, so you can see depth and stuff in the foreground as well. And I have this hanging upstairs. It's a little dirty looking now, but it's nice. You just wipe it off with a moist towel, and it'll be around till the dinosaurs come back or whatever. This is a stretch canvas that I'm using today. And I wanted to show real quick before I go on, Dave, is I don't know if you can tell or not, but there's a little ding here. I have a tabletop easel. It's called Angel Wings. And when you have the wings up like this, sometimes they have like a little bolt. And mine caused an indentation on my canvas. So if you just take, it's a little trick that you can learn, just put something behind it and it'll keep that from, so when you're painting, you're not going to see that indentation. I have a palette. I'm using it's a pad that I put my colors on, my paints on. An odorless mineral oil.
Right.
Am
We've
I
got
going too fast or too much? Or?
no.
I'm showing
Okay.
my version of what I have.
Oh,
Like
good.
paper
And you have brushes, and
Yeah.
I tell people paper towels. You can have paper plates if you'd rather start off like that. So the picture that we're going to do today is of this lighthouse that you have taken. And can you tell us about it, Dave?
All right. So this is Squirrel Point Light, and Lori and I walked the dogs out there in September. This is on the Kennebec because everything I do is on the Kennebec. That's the name.
Right.
And this is a lighthouse. Across behind it is Phippsburg Congregational Church. Um, I've liked this. It's got the things I really like about this photo. We have really interesting sky. We have the church behind it, right? The lighthouse is fun. Uh, I thought I had terrible light, and it turned out that it kind of is dramatic coming in from the side.
Right.
And the foreground is what's really fun. We have this thing printed out 2 feet by 3 feet, and it basically covers our electrical box in our hallway. And every time I go upstairs, I see it, and I really do like the bushes and the colors in the foreground. So Lori's got a small print of it and a 11 by 14 print of
Perfect.
it propped up in front of her. I have done one thing. Show the back of the canvas.
Oh.
What I did is because it's my photo and I do photo things, I made it a black and white photo. I flipped it so it would be mirrored, and then I put it on my computer screen. I put this puppy, the canvas, up to it on the back, and I could trace it. Basically, that's what I
Nice.
did to get the proportions.
You can't do that with a canvas board, but you can
can't
with
do that with
the
a
stretch
canvas
canvas. That's
board.
awesome. That's a great trick. So to anybody out there that's listening, it could just be the three of us, but the thing that's you want to remember is when you choose your subject, it's something that speaks to you, right? So obviously you wanted to do this, okay? And composition is a big thing. And when I look at a photo, I want to make sure it's not just like a 50-50, like, something on the top and something on the bottom, which would be like right smack in the middle of the photo. Because it just kind of like all of a sudden now you're just taking your canvas and you're breaking it down into two segments. This is nice because I like things in threes. So you've got your sky, which is the top third. And then in the middle, you've got the trees and the water, and then you have your foreground. So if you look at the paint, if you look at the composition, it's really kind of cool because you have those three sections, which I like. I like to do things in threes. When I mix my colors, I mix them in threes. I mix like a warm tone, a cool, and so we'll go through that eventually. But what I like to do is just look at the picture, try to concentrate on it a little bit. I start squinting. I find where my darks and my lights are, and just to start to get it into your mind, like what you're going to paint. I personally do not draw it on my canvas. That's just because I've never started it that way. So a lot of times when people look at my paintings, things may look a little off or a little crooked or whatever. And I'm fine with that. I love to adjust it with the oil paints. And that's why I like working with oils, because the paint stays wet for days on end, depending on how thick of a layer you use. I like this. I love the reds. I like the colors. Green and red complement each other. It's an old, looks like a shingled lighthouse. Yes. Okay. So the first thing you want to do is I like to tone my canvas. Okay, Lori?
Okay.
Now, Lori, you're used to working with alcohol, ink, and acrylics, correct?
Well, just alcohol inks, not
Okay.
even
So
acrylic.
you've never done oils. You know nothing about it.
Nothing.
This would be called, the way that you and I have our canvas right now, this is the portrait mode. This is how, if you were doing a portrait or anything that's, like your lighthouse, it's going, up and down. If you wanted to do a landscape, you would turn your canvas and that way, correct. The reason I emphasize on a lot of this stuff, you too, is because I didn't know any of this when I started. Or somebody would be like, well, are you putting it in the portrait? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm not doing a face. So, I mean, seriously, I learned this all on my own. It's by trial and error. So this is my way that I do it. I'm going to show you the canvas now. Is I want to tone it in a nice darkish color. Yellow ochre works well. A lot of people like to use orange. You can use blue. You can use, whatever colors that you want. We have sky here. I just love doing yellow ochre. So I'm going to take some of that on my brush, and I'm using a medium-sized brush. You can use a large one, depending on the size of your canvas. Lori, I see that you're sporting some gloves. So
Yes.
I'm going to put a glove on. A lot of people don't do it. But the thing is with oils, I am so messy. I get this paint everywhere, and this is one of the reasons that people don't like to use oil,
Yeah.
because it stays wet. So I'm going to take a paper plate, and I'm just going to put some yellow ochre on there that I have on my palette. And
Okay.
I'm going to add a good amount. There's no specific amount, Lori. I'm just taking, and I'm going to mix the yellow ochre and that mineral oil. And mineral oil, get odorless. That's another thing that they have these days, so you don't smell the oil. But I just love something about the saturation and the fact that you can work wet on wet with
Okay,
oil
so
is what I like.
I've got
Then
this pretty watery.
you want it, because you want it like this, Lori. See, when you put it on your canvas, you want it to be wet, okay? And then you're just going to tone your whole canvas with this. So I go left to right. You can just go real quick, and it's not about doing it any specific way or whatever. Now, some people won't or don't. But another thing that I've noticed is when you tone your canvas, all those little crevices, those little pores in the canvas?
Yeah.
This kind of helps fill those pores up. What you can do is paint around the edges, okay? And that's just going around the corners of your canvas. So if you do not frame it and you put it up on the wall, you're not going to see that white. You're going to see, the painting that you're working on. So the sky, if you're doing a sky, goes all the way around the corner. Feel free, Lori, if it gets too wet and you just want to cover your canvas so it's not white, what I'm going to do is you can take a paper towel and you can just kind of like rub it on there. It doesn't make any difference if you see, some marks. And I tell you, that's part of the paint. Things about
So you
painting that
just
I love is sometimes those little things that happen, those little accidents or streaks or whatever, add. Lori, that looks really good.
Okay.
Can you still see your outline of the lighthouse?
Yeah, kinda. Yeah.
Right now is I'm going to sketch
Oh,
what we are painting.
okay.
So
I will.
yellow ochre works well. Okay, Laura? So don't use a pen or a pencil. If you can, no, you're fine. You just want to try to use your paintbrush.
Oh, okay.
And you can use a small paintbrush or, again, I like the long handle paintbrushes. Normally I'd be standing and you want to go in, and you can back up and people will say arm's length. Everyone's different. You can sit to paint. It's just that you need to get up once in a while because you want to see what your painting looks like from, a few feet away. Do yellow ochre
Oh, okay. Just
straight
separate.
out. Now you're not going to put any oil, you're not going to put any mineral oil or anything, okay?
Okay.
You're going to use your yellow ochre, and I'm adding a little bit of darkness to it, a little bit of like red you can add, or a little bit of blue, so it'll show up on the canvas, okay?
Okay.
So we're just kind of like trying to get your composition in there, get what we're doing in there. So I just have a little bit. This is about having fun, Lori. Don't worry about it. You've never done this. It's intimidating. I know. I still have a hard time sometimes. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to find where I don't know if you can see, I'm going to find where the sky is. So about a third of the way down, it's probably a little bit more than that. It's almost halfway down. I'm just going to do like that. I'm going to put a line through. Okay. This is where
Oh, okay.
This,
Hold on.
this is where the trees are going to be in the background. Look at the thickness of the tree. So, probably a couple inches, and you're just going to, if you feel better to skip across where the lighthouse is, feel free to do so. It doesn't really make any
I think
difference.
I went too high.
I like to go completely across because you want the lines to match up. So if you break the line and for whatever your object is in the middle, sometimes when you go to add the horizon or the line on the other side, it may not be even.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is going to play as our trees. Let's see here. The tree line is going to be up in here. Then you're going to have, this is your water line. And what's really cool about the foreground, if you look at the picture, it goes up, down, and a little bit of a slope. So I'm just going to try to capture that a little bit. So it goes down like this. And you do not need to know how to draw. You really don't, because I don't draw. So if you look at the picture, look at the angle of where the ground is, and you'll notice there's land in between.
Uh-huh.
You'll see that there's a hump. There's going to be flowers in the front. So when you squint, you see that there's darkness right here.
Yeah.
So all I'm doing is I'm going to try to find that darkness. So again, I'm just kind of going to get that dark in there, leave everything else light, and I'm going to try to find how that line goes. And you can take your paintbrush and you can just scrub it in there if you want. You don't have to be gentle. And I think that's why a lot of people, when they first start, they do like to use the hard canvas because you can do all this.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I need some
you
more.
got on my canvas, I've got those two lines actually. What's nice is that when you have these lines, when you have these verticals and stuff, it's so cool for the eye because you don't want it just to be like straight across. So good job on the photo that you took, Dave. I mean, the composition's good. So I'm even going to go up a little higher on mine. And this is where you can start to, you can look at it. Look at your picture. I'm not trying to copy it 100%. Don't worry about doing details or anything. You're just trying to find where everything is. I'm not drawing, coloring or painting anything in yet. Now what I'm going to do is, because I go by hand, I'm just going to take the same yellow ochre and I'm going to find where the top of my lighthouse is. And then I'm going to find where you have yours drawn out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Which is good.
Do you still need that light?
No.
All right. Let me help you out there. All right. Look at this.
Is that better? Oh, yeah. There you go, Laura.
The light was helpful to see through,
Right. So, when you put paint down and I start painting, I love to just like lay the paint down. Don't be afraid to just put the paint down. And while I'm sketching this in, do it a little smaller because it's a lot easier to make something larger than it is to make it smaller. So, if you make these lines too large and you try to thin them out a little bit, you might get it might be a little harder. So what's really important about this, I'm just going to try to get my lighthouse in here. So I'm just going to, and the lighthouse comes down to, what's neat about this one, now I've never done a lighthouse that has these angles. It's usually round. So this one has, and it goes with the top of it. So I'm just going to, now, Dave, I want you to do it like this next time, okay? People are going to be like, oh boy. Okay, I'm going to do that. And then this is going to come out.
Well, and on that, you've added the mineral spirits.
Right.
And so, and I was actually looking this up a little bit. Again, I'm going rogue. But this helps in the layering, right? Because it's
Yes.
you've thinned it, so it's going to be better behaved when you layer over it, right?
Yes. This is just what I call like my underpainting, I mean, as you see right now, this is not all perfect. It's just going to be, I'm just trying to find where everything is. Now, this lighthouse, it's the angles, and you drew yours in, and a lot of times this is where I have my issues. You want to make sure that the roof is going the right way, and such. So this has a basement or probably a boathouse. That is where they would bring that boat right into the.
Well, that's the foundation there. There's a big ass boathouse on that site. That's a whole nother thing.
I see the foundation underneath the actual lighthouse, which is like right here, which looks like it's made out of cement. But then it looks like there's and it goes the angle of this picture. Lori, how you doing? Let me see. Yeah, see, you got it all sketched in there because you drew it through, which is a great idea.
Yeah.
I really like that idea. This is too. So now I'm looking
By
at the
the way,
picture and I'm going,
there's the boathouse. Talk about your angles.
oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, but it's like all slanty. It makes me sick. It upsets my tummy just to look at it. Okay, back to what we're actually
No, it's fine. So if you went completely across here,
Mm-hmm.
and you have these lines, this is where, well, the lighthouse is going to hide those. So you can just kind of, take your paintbrush and you can get rid of those. Now, all of this yellow ochre, all of this is, I'm just spreading it on the painting and adding it because I like the effect that it gives. It's good for your shadows. Hold on. And I'm not, doing anything other than just getting that in there. This is all going to be white underneath there, but you see, we don't have any white on here yet. So now, This needs to be higher. Okay, so like I want the white of the lighthouse is going to go right about here for me. And then this is going to be where the red part is, the see-through part, the glass as you want to see. Mm-hmm. But then the roof is too low. So I am going to bring this up. And while you can do this while it's wet. If you draw it in ahead of time, then you don't have to worry about it. But I am just going to when I paint, like I said, I have my own way of doing it. It's, whatever works best for you. The biggest thing is to to have the right equipment, know, the values, are your darks, your composition, your lights and your darks. And then your composition is really important. And then this angle here goes straighter. And then this one goes to the edge like this. So it goes more like that. Now, people will look and say, oh my gosh, that's not how you do it. And I understand if you don't do it that way. I just adjust it while I am here. Now, and then, once I get to the point where I'm happy with the lines, I will go and start adding.
When you say they would say you're not doing it that way, what do you mean specifically?
Well, some people will be like, I know a lot of people will do a grid. They'll use a grid. They'll mark their canvas with the squares. They will. We've all seen that probably in books or whatever. And you might have it broken down into 6 sections or 9, and then going up and down, and then you can draw the painting, or what you're painting in that grid. It makes it easier for people. I just totally kind of just do it this way. I just go. And I'm too impatient. I just want to get painting. So I just try to find what I'm doing and just get it in there and then worry about all that stuff afterwards. So basically, the only thing I'm putting in there is the building right now. And as you go, I'll show you, Dave, what you do. Like now, you can go in and get a little darker. Okay. And you see where the darks are. There's a platform up here. I haven't done that yet. You've got the angle of the roof, which I have completely off. So, and then you've got the window. So I just kind of like a little darker now. I'm just going in with a darker color. I'm not worrying about whites. I'm not worrying about reds. I'm just trying to add. So we know the window is going to be there. We know that the bottom of this building is going to go here. So you just take and start darkening up once you've got your right line. So I'm doing the bottom of the lighthouse here. This part here is flat. And then it kind of angles over here a little bit. So I don't know can you see that on the bottom? So yeah. I'm basically just getting those lines in. And I'm probably going to go, I'm like, okay, I'm happy with that. I'm going to darken that up. I am going to, there are 3 parts to this. You've got the right side, which is your shadow, and then you get your sunlit sky. So part of the lighthouse. So you got to remember that, it's nice to have darks and lights, and we're going to talk about that and how you achieve that. But anyways, so what I'm doing now is still don't like this. It's the angle is wrong on this. So I'm just going to, where I am now is, again, I'm just looking at my photo that you gave me. I am making sure that I have enough space for my grass, which I do. Lori's got hers drawn out, so she might have, it's probably a little quicker for her. So even though she hasn't done this before, she was geared up and prepared. So
she's also talented.
No.
she's an artist. So
we'll end the episode here with us arguing with Lori over how talented she is, because you can see how that's going to go. But tune in for the next episode where Michel-Paul shows us how to start painting the sky. We start putting some color on these canvases.